Winter 2023 tier list, whatever. Hey guys, it's Jules, and this is my tier list for the Winter 2023 anime. This is the majority of the shows that came out on Winter, 37-ish to be exact. I did skip a few, as I pointed out on my recap video. I did not watch all of the sequels, so if anything is missing that you might think should be here, that's why. If I didn't see the show before, I still have to catch up with that. Again, this is just my dumb opinion, and a lot of these shows actually surprised me. Take that video as context if you want to get my first impressions, and if you enjoy this kind of video or you want to see my next recap video that's coming up, please subscribe, and I would totally be grateful for that. The goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers so that YouTube can notice us, and any comments and likes are appreciated. Thank you so much for that. Side note, I won't go too much in detail with spoilers. Maybe something will cross my mind and I might say something minor, but if you want to go spoiler free and you haven't seen a show, follow the timeline. I will put in chapters so you can skip through these shows, okay? But let's not waste more time and get started. Let's start with Kaina of the Great Snow Sea or something like that. I don't remember the name. Basically, what I said was that the animation wasn't as good since it's all CGI, and the expressions are fine, they're serviceable. What keeps this from being really good is the action scenes, because they feel so stiff at times. But if you go beyond that, this is a really cool world. The characters are a bit generic at times, but honestly, the world itself and this kind of Mad Max version of, I don't know, like Waterworld per se, this is still a good C tier. As far as CGI stories go and CGI animation go, it's not as bad as some of the worst out there, but it's not as good as Beasts of Ars or Trigun. But it's serviceable, and if you want an interesting world, this can have it, but you are going to have to stomach some stiff animation. Fire Hunter is one of those animes too, which I saw a lot of flack on it because of the pacing. I didn't understand it at first because the animation was different, and it's interesting, it's serviceable, and then actually I like a lot of the vibe it has. But after episode 2 and 3, I understood what the people were mentioning. They use a lot of recycled animation from other episodes, and they put in art concepts, which are nice, they look really good, but it takes you off immediately. Maybe one and done, but this happens more times throughout the episodes, and I honestly wasn't that big of a fan of that idea. I wasn't that big of a fan of where the story was going, so I wanted that to be better, but sadly no. Buddy Daddies, one of the best new shows this season. I think a lot of complaints after the show ended were that a lot of people were comparing this to Spy Family, and yeah, there are some similarities, but it's its own kind of show, and it does it really well. These characters are really charming, really nice, really fun to be around with. Mary might be divisive for some, I guess, because basically the best depiction of a kid, she is spot on. Real energetic, really annoying at times, because yeah, kids can be annoying. But also, she's emotional, she has her moments. It's really nice when she bonds with these two guys, which again, these guys are really good. A really good pair. And again, don't worry, this isn't any yaoi bait. This isn't anything that you were expecting. The way they care, or they start to care for Mary, is really heartwarming in a lot of ways. And I think all of the episodes are really good. I don't really remember an episode that is bad. Out of all the new shows, I think this one might be one of the best. Might change my mind later, but I think this is an S tier. And again, if you were missing like assassins and more action like in Spy Family, this is going to be worth your while. It's action packed, it's funny, it's emotional, it has heartfelt moments. So yeah, it's all around is an S tier, and I think the studio has done a wonderful job. One of the strongest shows and one of the most surprising ones were Isekai Cooking, or Campfire Cooking in Another World, animated by Mappa. The cooking and the meals were really nice looking. Like, they look delicious, man. It was kind of like hard to watch the show and not get a little bit hungry. Being able to order anything from Amazon, or like this Amazon page that this person has, this could be a good idea. And then you get the first episode where he gets this group of adventurers with him and they bond really nicely over food, and it's like, okay, this is chill, this is nice. And I was worried when the Fenrir wolf came in, because I was like, okay, if we're gonna get stuck with this guy, he's gonna be annoying with the I want food. And if I had to point out negatives, I think this show can be a bit repetitive with the cycle and the formula, but honestly, I found it really relaxing, really charming, and really funny at times. Again, the animation for the cooking, there are surprisingly a lot of action scenes in this, and it's good. It's really good. I like the magic system. I like how he disrupts every town he goes to because, one, he has a magical creature with him that is supposed to be like a god per se, and make these delicious foods, and I don't know, it's really fun. If I had to like put it down, I think this is an A tier for me. If you're not into the repetitive things, this might be like a B for you. But again, I dig the formula, I dig what was going on with the show, and I think it's really good enough to be an A tier. There was another show where a girl got transported to another world. She was able to go through to two worlds and bring in stuff from her world to sell, saving 80k for my retirement. The problem with that one, I felt, was a bit more mean-spirited at times. I will admit that I did drop this one kind of immediately, so maybe that changed. But again, I wasn't that big of a fan of the jokes. I wasn't that big of a fan of the animation. It wasn't like that good. The concept itself was cool because she had the power to jump through worlds and do something cool with it. I just didn't buy with this show at the beginning. I wouldn't say it's terrible, but I would put this like over Fire Hunter at D tier. The other show I started but immediately dropped was the Legend of Heroes one. It looked like very generic. It was based on a mobile game in Japan. Basically what hit me was that I didn't like the characters at the beginning. I didn't like the animation. That's probably my first F tier. I'm gonna be a little bit of a hater on this one, but I saw My Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten a lot in the discourse for best rom-com for winter, and I did watch it. I did say that it was the plot was a little bit like too perfect. You have the perfect girl, and in comes her neighbor, and she never speaks with him ever. He offers her the umbrella. They speak for like half a minute. But after that, she starts like, she cooks for him, and then she helps him clean his house, and now they're living together pretty much. And like, this is really like way too perfect for me. The guy to be a little too bland. I hated the interactions he had with like being oblivious about doing something, and then when he found out it was embarrassing, like, oh sorry, what am I doing? You're not my type, and have that repeated like twice per episode. Every episode was like, ugh. I don't know, I wasn't a fan of their dynamic. And the other thing that really took me out of it was the side cast. The friend the guy has was fine, he's serviceable, but annoying. But then the girlfriend for that guy was annoying as hell. But the worst one is definitely the main guy's mom. Like, oh my god, you know you're being this embarrassing kind of mom, and I hated her, to be honest. So combine all that, and the interactions between them were very slow. The animation and the science were meh. I might be in the minority because I still see this show being rated high. Yeah, maybe I'm just being a hater and maybe I didn't get it, but this one barely scraped a C for me. It's fine, it's inoffensive, but just that. I don't know. If I had to choose another rom-com that I thought was better, this might be a bit unfair because this show is currently on a delay, but Kubo-san is way more interesting to me. I am a bit biased because I'm a big fan of Takagi-san, so I like how Kubo teases Junta, but the whole idea of Junta being this invisible guy and how Kubo is the only one in the school that's able to see him is really cute, and I like how you end one of these episodes with Kubo going back to her house, and you see how she is being teased by her older sister, and it's like, yes, that's just perfect. Like, there's two sides to this character, and both sides I really like. I just really like the dynamic, I like the colors, I like the animation. It's just really nice. And also I really like Kubo's voice actress, how she emotes and works with this character. So as for now, I would put this at B. It's like a B plus for me right now. If you're a rom-com lover and you like this kind of cutesy teasing kind of show like Takagi-san, you're gonna love Kubo-san. Another rom-com which I gave it way more praise and I honestly felt a bit disappointed by is The Ice Guy and the Cool Girl. This show has a good concept in paper. It's supposed to be an office place with fantastic creatures and humans, ice people or Buddha or stuff like that. And you do notice them using this concept. Himuro-kun is used like perfectly because whenever he gets nervous or flustered or really excited, he gets frozen or he brings out a snowstorm or he conjures up snowmen, and it's kind of cute. I like the vibe of the show. Fujitsuki-san is fine. I'm assuming that at the end of the season, maybe she gets more flustered and less cool, and I honestly wasn't a big fan of the pacing of the show. I was hoping stuff would get going a bit faster than this. I didn't drop it because I think the show is bad, per se. I think it's a respectable, like, C+, honestly. I think it's still better than Angel, but it's not as good as Kubo-san. The other thing that took me out of it was the sidecast. Sidecast started off serviceable, but then, I don't know, I didn't like the fox girl because she was way too energetic and kind of annoying. A lot of them are really forgettable, to be honest. So the couple, the only one I found really fun because of the ice powers was Himuro. I think My Senpai is Annoying was a better idea of the office-heading rom-com without the need of special powers. Those powers just worked as background noise or special effects, so honestly it didn't really affect the show. So I think I just didn't vibe with it, but yeah. The other one that I checked out was Mou Ippon, schoolgirls anime with girls joining the judo club at their new school. Vibes of Haikyuu, but without the competition aspect of it. It's more laid back, it's more relaxed. It's not as visually appealing to me, at least. If you're a fan of judo, I think this does it well for the judo fans. As is, I didn't feel the need to continue seeing the show. And I think not a lot of people saw it because of the character designs, because the girls aren't that cute per se, but I really like their passion to show off the judo and show off these moves and stuff. You might vibe with it, but as is, I think it's a C tier. Another one that I thought had more potential and ended up being really disappointing was Giant Beasts of Ars. Episode 1 is good because they come out of the box with more mystery, less explaining of what's going on, and like, okay, you're gonna put all of episode 2 to explain what's going on. And no, their characters themselves aren't really that interesting, and the world is interesting in paper, but in the anime and the animation and the designs aren't that good. It's kind of meh. I didn't really feel anything on this one. I did feel a bit disappointed. D tier. The Handyman Isekai. This one was honestly a surprise because at the beginning they were like skits. It got funny, it had like good jokes, but a lot of the jokes didn't land. The only fixation this show has is like making dick jokes, and honestly, they do a lot of those, and I wasn't that big of a fan, but it was okay. But what they do best is bring out the lore to these characters. The mage has a lot of backstory that is really interesting. Other groups come in, like an elf that fights with the sorceress, and they're kind of like an item. So after all these storylines are like coming in and start intertwining, it's like, okay, this is getting more interesting. They delivered a really interesting story with still some really good laughs at the end. So I was really shocked this one worked so well. I don't think it's good enough for A, but it's definitely like a B tier. The Isekai feel was definitely there. The group was really charming and nice. I really like Saitou. I like his dynamic with the girl. I like his apprentice slash son dynamic with the mage. Sidecast is pretty vast and really well explored. I like that a lot. So yeah, it's a B tier. It's really nice. The Attack on Titan special, final season part 1 or whatever it's called right now. And honestly, this special was really good. The part with Hanji was phenomenal, really well animated. The soundtrack was great. The characters are there. We know these characters. It's really good. This part of the story was fun and really action-packed and really dramatic. I think they adapted it really well. It's the best MAPPA has done Attack on Titan thus far, and if they have all this time to do the next parts this well, I'm less nervous on how that's gonna come out. I have to give their credit here. This is an S tier. This would be at the top right now. Spy Classroom. I did mention that I thought it was kind of generic, and after I watched it, I was vibing to it a bit. Okay, it's getting good. It's doing something. It still had the problem with the girls being too generic and samey. They had different stuff they were able to do, and it was explored well, and the backstory for the teacher was cool enough, and the animation is good. It was serviceable, and the designs were good. They went to this mission and everything. It was okay, what's next? What's coming up for this show? Instead of moving forward, it was flashbacks and like, okay, you could have done this before the whole climax of the season or climax of this part of the story. It was a really weird decision. They did this because they wanted to keep it secret, and then we like, oh, what a twist. After the whole action scene and everything passed, I wasn't really that interested anymore. The villain is really campy. The fight wasn't really that good with the main villain, and I don't know, it kind of flopped over that. So yeah, it's a C-. Ayakashi Triangle was really, really, really ecchi. Was also affected by the COVID situation in China. Honestly, first episode was fun, but after that episode, it kind of got repetitive. Jokes weren't that funny. I don't know if anybody watched this with the version that was online was censored. I'm pretty sure people were waiting for the uncensored cut. Story-wise, there really isn't anything there. It's fun if you can turn your brain off, but that's about it. It's better than Spy Room, so yeah, it's a C tier. Let's go back to the surprises. Mononogatari Mononogatari looked more like a generic anime for me at the beginning. A lot of shows that I felt were similar to that. I liked the designs well enough. The animation looked good. The protag is a bit generic. He's just a bit laser focused on something he wants to do because of revenge, and he has to learn how to not be so nearsighted and be able to accept more of these creatures, ordinary item being turned into a demon. But after episode 1 and his interactions with this family of creatures, and I started to really like the main characters, they had really good chemistry, they really had some really funny moments, the action was good. I don't know, the chemistry between the main guy and the main girl was not something I was expecting. There were a lot of ideas thrown in and I liked it a lot. Started out being really fun. So it's not an A tier thing, but honestly I think it's B. It's solid B here. ONIMAI, it's so confusing to talk about because he's a shut-in, he keeps to himself, he's been relegated to being like second best in his family's eyes, or at least to his eyes, next to his genius sister. And the sister is genuinely worried about him and how he's gonna be able to live when she's gone and stuff like that. So that's cool, that's a really good idea. You start off the show and the guy turns into a 13-year-old girl, I think, and he turned into this because the sister drugged him. So yeah, that's a little bit weird. It still feels sus to me. I know that the sister means well, but this is really weird, especially after the guy gets periods and being worried about hair and being worried about being looked at by guys. I know it's anime, but the concept was really weird. What I would have changed a lot of the show is that the sister wouldn't be so sus about it. I know she apologizes and she means well, but she still teases him, puts him in really uncomfortable in situations that normally ends well, but mostly they end well because the protag is a really good sport. I don't want to go into it a lot because it's anime. I don't want to go to specifics, but yeah, I felt that kind of weirdness. But they have really good chemistry. The new kids that come out are good too. They have this fun energy, nice bond. And the animation studio Bind, they understand the assignment really well. Like the colors, the animation, they gave them the opportunity to be more cartoony compared to what they did with Mushoku Tensei. The faces, the reactions, the fluid animation moments they had, it was really good. I still think that visually this is my favorite show. What keeps me from putting this at A tier is the etchiness, man. It clashes so hard with the good intention of the show, and it makes me feel really uncomfortable because of the ages and stuff. There's a lot of bad scenes, there's a lot of cue card scenes where one of the girls is really like big, if you know what I mean. And there's a lot of jiggle physics. Dude, come on, she's probably like 14. Like, I know it's Japan, I know it's a different culture, but I still don't feel totally comfortable with that. I was not happy with the decision and the ending of the show. Overall, I think the show is good. I would put it at B tier. Skip to the next show if you don't want spoiler for the last episode. The decision of him to keep drinking the potion to still be a girl, regardless of the situation they were in, because they were in a hot spring, was baffling to me. I wanted him to just be like, okay, it's time for me to be the older brother. I can't stay being the little sister all this time. I have to grow. I have to choose to be this thing. Like, okay, cool. Character growth. That's it. End of the show. No, he's just considers to keep being the little sister, and I hated it. I don't know. It just felt like a cop-out to keep the show, and I would have preferred if that opportunity didn't come until like the next season. Regardless of the animation being so awesome and the etchiness and that ending really kept me out of it, but it's honestly a B minus. I hope if they get a season 2, it's the last season and they can wrap it up, but we'll see. The Tale of Outcasts, the one that I mentioned, was kind of furry bait. Yeah, that one was really weird, really campy. I did give it a chance. I felt that it wasn't really going anywhere. It got way too dramatic, but not the good kind of dramatic, but it just came out as hilarious to me. And then you see these familiars being like wolves and dogs and stuff. I'm like, no, this is just furry bait, man. I'm not into this. You're gonna have to be like Beastars, not this kind of show. I would put this at D tier, honestly. Revenger. First episode was good. I think the story of the samurai was interesting. And like, okay, how are you gonna follow this up? It got campy, it got weird, and like, okay, what else do you got? And the animation wasn't that good. The story was tried to be a bit dramatic, but it honestly never got that interesting for me. I think if you can stomach a bit of those episodes that went nowhere, because I couldn't, I dropped it because of that. Maybe it's good, but I think it was just okay. I don't think it's terrible, but I would keep it at C tier, but it's gonna be like a C minus. It's better than Ayakashi Triangle, but yeah, it just stays there. Let's just put this one out there. Inukai-san Dog. I honestly don't even know what to say because Gekak already said it on his video. I already said it on my video. It's terrible. It's probably one of the worst shows I've ever seen. Since I started the channel, this is probably the worst one I reviewed. When you involve animals on this shit, like, no. This is like one of those only shows that I felt disgusted after seeing it, so... Again, I can stomach a lot of weird stuff. It's anime, you know, but this one is unforgivable, dude. This Karen girl just falling in love with this dog and then not being the only girl that does it. Spoilers, but I went to the last episode because, I was like, okay, is this gonna finish in this season? Is this going to be explained why this guy turned into a dog? It turns out a scientist turned this guy into a dog so he could be a dog for some reason. I skimmed through it, so I don't know. He has the power to revert back into a human, and yeah, problem solved. He doesn't. So at the end, not only is Karen one of the worst human beings, this guy just ends up being a simp, and now he's a dog, so it's perfect for him. So it feels, I don't know, it's terrible, dude. I don't know what else to say about this show. It's god awful. It's an F tier. This is the worst show, so it's here. So let's go into something more positive. The revolution of the magical princess. What was it? I don't remember. A lot of people said the main character was this carbon copy of Chisato. I knew I had to see this show. Basically, the girl who got reincarnated into this royal family. She didn't want to be a princess, so she started to invent stuff because she was powerless. She had no magic. She ends up using the other princess that got dumped by the prince. They started to kind of form a bond and do stuff. Do science and fly and do magic stuff. It's kind of cool. I really like the bond they have. They had really good chemistry. Anisfia was a bit overbearing. It was a little bit too intense for my liking at times, but honestly, she's fine. She was fun. She was spunky. I don't think she's better than Chisato. She ends up being way too spunky and a little bit too irresponsible. From the first episode, I was like, okay, it's gonna be action-packed, it's gonna be magic-filled, it's gonna be really cool. But after episode 1, from episode 2 to episode 5, I think, a lot of talking, a lot of exposition, a lot of explaining of how magic works instead of like using it too much, a lot of bonding, a lot of that, and like, okay, I was expecting more action, but this works. And then the action came and it was really cool, but not as cool as the first episode. The first episode probably has the best animation out of the whole show. And then they put out a storyline where the brother gets crazy and they introduce like vampires and other stuff that is like way out there, and I was getting lost. That was weird to me. I was going to be like very confidently put this at a B tier, but for now I would put it as B minus. If they're gonna make a season 2, which it kind of assumes it is, they need more action on it. But as a Yuri show, honestly, it's probably one of the best. It has some really good world building. It has more, it's fun, and the positives outweigh the sort of negatives it had, but overall I enjoyed it. Tomo-chan. Wow, that was one of the biggest surprises of the season, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't mention that it was good or that I found it interesting in the first episode, but after getting Carol and then Carol interacting with Mitsuzu and Tomo, and then Tomo still being really quirky and Mitsuzu just being this disruptor of everything, and honestly, this is probably one of the best casts for a rom-com in a while. I like the vibe, I like the story, I like how this chemistry between Tomo and the main guy is weird, but it works for them. How they explore the past of these characters, how the animation is really good when they do these gags. Carol-chan is fun. Mitsuzu is a joy to watch. The opening is one of the catchiest ones this season. I really like the ending as well. Overall, the majority is great. I put it at A tier over Campfire Cooking. I wasn't expecting this after seeing the previews and stuff, but Vinland Saga, wow, that's been really good. I saw the memes about this just being the farming arc, which, yeah, there's this character growth from Thorfinn and the new characters we get, and wow, it's really good. Like, I think a lot of people might be put off from this one because it's not as action-packed or as crazy as the first season. But if you can appreciate the character moments and the character change and the moments these characters have between themselves and how they help each other to grow, and whenever you reach that climax of how this change and Thorfinn's personality happens, and masterclass there. I don't know how to gush about this one more, but really well done. It's animated great for what they they're doing right now. They're making farming look really interesting, so I don't know what else to say. This is S tier, and this is probably my favorite show of winter 2023. If you haven't seen Vinland Saga, maybe wait for season 2 to end, but I would strongly recommend this one. Ningen Fushin, I honestly did give it little to no praise in the video. I don't know, it felt like one of those copies of Kanosuba. But after the second episode, I did start watching it more. I was kind of a fan of how they stuck together even though they didn't trust each other, because they did have trust issues. And it kind of worked for a few episodes, but then it felt like they weren't advancing enough. I thought the characters were a bit bland. I felt like the action wasn't that good. I got a bit bored from where I was and when I dropped it, so I wouldn't put it next to these shows and C. So it's a D+. It's the best D show here. I never got into, and I honestly don't think is as good as anything in the D tier, is the Iceblade Sorcerer. It just felt really random. I mean, it's not the... I think out of these three, Iceblade is the best one, quote unquote, but generic premise where the strongest guy in the world is sent to be a student in this school that is against people who aren't that strong. And then at the end of the episode, they put in some random stuff like the guys being muscle buddies, and then quirky and crazy and out of nowhere, but it feels forced. It doesn't fit the vibe at all, you know? It's forced and feels kind of dumb. I honestly didn't like the character designs. Yeah, that one goes to F tier for me. F plus, if you will. But yeah, it's still an F tier. The other one that is kind of like it is the strongest exorcist in the world, Isekai. I don't know, I started the show and I did say it felt generic. That strongest guy in the world is Isekai and now is hiding his powers, but then he's still really freaking good. So, but he's still shunned by his family, so he has to prove himself. He does it by defeating a giant newt, and then he goes to school, who is a slave, because of course there's slaves in this. After that, it started getting kind of good. The magic system in this show is really good, and then you add in the exorcist spells and stuff like that. It was really interesting. But there was an arc, the slave girl was being invited into a harem, and it felt out of nowhere, dude. And the concept and a lot of the story in that arc just got me out of the show real quick. I don't know, I just felt like I was wasting my time there. I'd say that one is acceptable. It's a decent C tier. While the main character does seem a bit generic, I'm a fan of him, but he is very oblivious. Like, you're supposed to be one of the strongest people in the world. How are you this dumb, you know? But again, the concepts are really cool, and he is way too overpowered, but still, I'd place it at C tier, and I would put it next to Kaina, I think. Another big surprise would be the Chilling in My 30s show. Another fantasy show where the guy is fired from his adventure party. Well, in this case, it's the Sleeping King's party. He finds out he's a human. He is rescued or rescues a redheaded, big boobed girl. They kind of are a thing. He wants to be in this village, and it's really interesting. Like, it caught me off guard, like how good it got. Really wholesome at times. It's really funny. And I like the message that he really was really valuable because the Demon King army fell apart without him. Funny faces, funny reactions. They use a lot of boob jokes, but they kind of work. As a fantasy show, I had a lot of fun with it. If I had to put it in somewhere, I would put it at B tier, but B minus. Like, it's the weakest of the ones in the B tier, but I still had a lot of fun with it. Like, surprisingly, I'm still really shocked with it. Like, I really like the powers. I really like how valuable he was as the leader. I honestly can't put this at C tier. I had more fun with this than basically everything else in C tier, you know? Okay, another one that I really thought was going to be really good, and it disappointed me hard. Reborn to Master the Blade. What a disappointment. It started off really interesting. The king wants to be reborn so he can fight and actually do stuff that he wanted to do, which specifically is fight. Find strong people. It's like, it's a shonen character in a fantasy show, and it kind of doesn't work as well as I thought it was, because episode 1 had the whole dragon thing and the and the baby with the funny laser thing, and it was really funny and really interesting, and like, okay. And then the little kids with being knights and stuff, like, okay, this is going really well. Once they are of age and they start off doing quests and stuff, I really didn't like the main character. They were going with the ambivalent thing where they don't see from good or bad, or they don't want to judge from good or bad. They only cared if somebody was really strong and they wanted to fight. And that was every episode. Like, I want to fight, I want to fight, I want to fight. You're not Goku. Like, Goku is a good character, but maybe there's a better way to do this. But whatever this show did it, I did not like. Still, the animation is good. I never liked the crooked smiles these characters had. That's another one of my grudges with it. Honestly, after like episode 1 and 2, it just became forgettable. I'd put it behind Ningen Fushin. Tokyo Revengers. This season 2, is a C tier for me. It's not as good as anything in the B tier, but I would still put it over everything else, just as a fan of it, but it's still stuck at C tier. One that really started off great and kind of lost a lot of its edge is High Card. I was really skeptical and really weirded out by a lot of people putting High Card at like 7 out of 10 in my anime list per se. And I was like, in my recap video, I was really like stunned and happy with what it did in the first episode. The cool powers, the power-ups with the cards, the characters. I really like the main character. The feel, the music, the soundtrack to it was really fun and really fits the vibe of the show. The animation, the designs are really good. So I was like, okay, this is like a must watch for me. But once the show got going, and I think it was after the halfway mark, they finished showing every new character and every character in the High Card organization, and then super focused on Chris. This show became the Chris show out of nowhere to me, and I really wanted to see more of Leo. I wanted to see more of Wendy. I don't know, I just felt like weirded out with the change, and some of the episodes felt fillery to me when they introduced a girl who has the power to attach hands. Like, okay, then from episode 7 to 12, I lost a lot of interest in the show. There were still some good spots and good times, but it really went from almost an easy A tier to C, but I think it's better made than Tokyo Revengers, but it would be at the bottom of B tier because it's fighting to not be a C+, you know. But I really hope season 2 is better. It can actually explore the other characters because they have something really good. The cards and the powers are really interesting, but some of the powers, especially that hand one, was like a miss, like a total miss on the show. So I don't know. I just really hope they can bounce back and hopefully this can get way better, you know. Let me just put this out there. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Vampire Dies in no time. What a freaking phenomenal show. It's simple, it's simplistic. I've talked about this before, but Vampire Dies in No Time is one of my favorite new comedy shows that came out. I just really like Ronaldo and the vampire, the interactions with John, and the vampire dies quickly and he turns into dust, and it happens all the time, but it's still really funny to me. The side cast and the side gags are really fun. How they open up this wacky world of vampire hunters and weird vampires is hilarious. Really good animation for the show. I'm surprised for a show that surprised me that they had a season 2, and the opening is freaking insane. And I love the animation for that, for the opening, and the song is catchy as well. And yeah, it's just a really good time. I honestly would put this at A tier, and being honest, it's over Campfire Cooking for me. If you haven't seen the show, I would totally recommend it if you're a fan of comedy shows. It's one of my new favorites that is kind of slept on. Record of Ragnarok. I think Record of Ragnarok is one of those shows that has a really good concept, but I think season 1 had a lot of issues with the animation. I think they could have used more animation instead of all of the time explaining and stuff they had. And it's like anime junk food for me in a way. I wouldn't say it's as good as anything in B tier though. I think everything else is like better animated, and I think a lot from the 10 episodes, a lot of them felt like filler. It's not bad, but it's not like I would put that or anything else in B tier. Still, I had more fun with this than anything in C tier, so it's at the top of C tier for me. Sometimes you need some anime junk food, and Record of Ragnarok is definitely that. Another one that surprised me a lot was the farming isekai. Maybe this one can do the farming thing well, and it actually did. I'm honestly really shocked. It doesn't really go into the harem thing. I really like the protag's, like how the progress was shown. He was able to use the tool he was given by the gods to grow this farm, and it was really nice and interesting to see him flourish and see these new creatures and then the new characters, the new female characters that came in. It was really nice, really wholesome. The only thing that got a bit annoyed by, because I know this is this kind of show, but it's like PG harem, because there isn't really much details on how some stuff happened, you know? And I think a lot of people got annoyed by it, but I found it fine. The harem thing really worried me because I thought it was going to be that kind of show, but it's not. It's wholesome, it's fun. The only thing that got me was that how every single person that was coming to the town were girls. We brought this army of angels and they're all girls, and we brought this town and they're only girls, and okay, we're gonna find some guys. They're kids, so and it was funny how a lot of these girls were really needy per se, because they wanted to repopulate their species, and like, okay, the only person here is the main guy, so get to it, I guess. It was really fun to see these characters interact with each other. It's charming, it's wholesome, and I really like the soundtrack. Surprisingly, I would put this over ONIMAI. I'm gonna make a change. I'm gonna put Kubo-san at A tier over Campfire Cooking. I really like Kubo-san. I've never seen Trigun, so I saw a lot of talk about how Trigun was going to get ruined because there was a CG remake and stuff like that, and Bash didn't look cool and whatever. I was pleasantly surprised. Episode 1 was really fun. Orange is really good with CGI. I honestly am not a big fan of CGI, but Orange does it really well. The emotions, the character faces, their reactions were so good, so expressive, so nice. Might have some issues at the later episodes from the pacing. Some action scenes didn't look as good, but the build up to that last arc was really good. I love the concepts. I really like the characters. I like the world. It's really fun. But I do think, again, that ending was a bit too out there for me to put it at A tier, but I do put it at B tier, right behind Mononogatari. What it also does is make me really curious to see Trigun, to compare them someday. Another one that was having issues and has CGI, Nier Automata, is a tough one. First off, it hasn't ended yet, and I haven't played the game, so I'm a newcomer in this, just like in Trigun. Episode 1 was a bit rough, in my opinion. I saw a lot of people liking it. I couldn't see further from the CGI jets and planes, and it looked really bad in that part. But once they got into the action and swordplay and 2B and their references, very accurate to the games, if you know what I mean, it was good. After episode 1, pretty much all the episodes were really good. From what I've seen, at least until now. I had a lot of fun with them. I like how at the end of each episode they try to explain new endings. The action is really good. Music is really good. Like, I think they use the same one from the game, but it still works really well. And it really makes me want to play Nier Automata someday. Some episodes aren't as good as others, but all of them have this like dramatic part with the robots and how they are affected by this war, and this is a really tough one, honestly. I don't know, I'd put it at the top of B tier for now, but I still need more episodes to make sure if maybe it's an A tier or if it stays at B, you know? Sugar Apple Fairy Tale, if you didn't know by the title, is more aimed to girls. But honestly, I had a lot of fun with it. The animation is good for what it is, but the designs, the colors, the landscapes are really pretty, really nice to look at. While the story is really dramatic, the idea of this world being governed by candy makers, and they put in this fairy slave ordeal. The main girl and the fairy, she has really good chemistry. I don't know, I just really like seeing them together. The tsundere fairy guy and the girl who is really sweet and nice. But then the only thing that irks me was how terrible the villains are with her, like way too over the top. That happens with these kinds of shows. I was really intrigued with the ending. I don't think it's as strong as a lot of the B tiers, but I would put it like over ONIMAI. I know I'm not the target demographic here. It's really nice to look at and it has a lot of charm. And the last one that was really a surprise, the Tsundere Villainess with the commentators from the other world. Wow, like I joked that this is like a let's play anime, and yeah, it's pretty much a girl and a boy from commentators club from school. They are commentating through a game, an otome game. They are able to tamper with the main prince of the game, and they want to save the Tsundere Villainess. And Princess is really, really good. The whole cast of the game is fun. They're fun to watch, it's gripping, and the main duo have a nice thing going on. Their chemistry is really fun because, well, they're having fun watching this game. The world inside the game is really well done. I really like the whole landscape, I like the music, I like the characters. There's not much action, but honestly this kind of game doesn't need that much, but there is some. Lots of twists and turns, and I really like how they close it. Maybe really too perfect, but it's fun. And I really liked how it ended, and I was happy with what happened. So kind of surprising, but I might put this at A tier. Let's check all of these out and figure it out for sure. We have our S tiers, Vinland Saga being first, and then Attack on Titan Special, then Buddy Daddies. You know what? Yeah, I put Tomo-chan on S tier. A tier. Vampire Dies in No Time, Kubo-san, Campfire Cooking, the Tsundere Villainess. I think Nier, I would put Nier at A tier too. And I'm thinking of maybe Saitou-sama. I think what Saitou-sama got hold back a bit was that last episode and the ecchi jokes, you know? It's a high B tier, it's a B+. B tier feels good. C tier, you know what? I'm putting Spy Room at D tier, yeah. Kaina might actually go over Ice Guy and the Cool Girl. The worst one, easily Inukai-san Dog. So I'm pretty satisfied with this one. This is my personal tier list of the winter anime. I hope you feel kind of the same. If you don't, let me know below. But yeah, it was really fun to just reminisce about all these shows. I had a lot of fun watching them. Maybe from the shows I skipped, maybe I might have missed something. Let me know below if I did. Yeah, I think this is a good representation of what I felt, and it might show that winter wasn't like jam-packed with S tier shows, but it had really good A tiers and B tiers and C tiers too. So yeah, honestly, an above average season, and especially after 2022. So hopefully spring brings out something way better, you know? I hope you liked the video. If you think I might have been wrong in some of these, let me know below. Share what you thought were the best shows for you. Again, thank you so much for liking, subscribing, commenting. Everything is super appreciated. And if you made it this far, thank you so much for all those comments and actually watching these videos. But yeah, anyway, next video is going to be the spring show, so check that out. Subscribe if you'd like to be notified, and yeah. But anyways, it's been Jules. I hope you have a great one, and I'll see you all for the next one.